how leaders communicate authority without words. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly knew who the leader was before they even said a word? No introduction, no preconception of who they were. You just felt their aura. That isn't confidence, it's non-verbal authority. My name's Jack and I teach entrepreneurs, CEOs and executives how to read people, influence outcomes and control high-stakes conversations through the power of non-verbal communication. By the end of this video, you'll know how authority is communicated non-verbally, what leaders do differently with their body language, why it works, and of course, how you can apply it too. Boom! So right off the bat, what is the benefit of being seen as an authority? Why do we want this? Well, it's not dominance, volume, or aggression like some people seem to think authority is. It's about others trusting your position and your leadership without proof, and the body signals this way before the words do. Perceived legitimacy. Now, obviously, back up your words with evidence, actually be good at your craft. We're not trying to fake anything here, but the whole point of this is to gain people's respect and display that executive presence without needing proof. So increased compliance and influence, greater team confidence, and ultimately respect. That arrow was awful. Next up is stillness over movement. Now, stillness is one of the strongest nonverbal signals of authority, but it actually gets misunderstood. Most people think authority comes from doing more, more talking, more moving, more gestures, but real leaders actually implement the opposite. When you're comfortable, confident, calm, it's a direct reflection of your nervous system. You don't need to fidget and pacify, which ultimately is what we see here. Fidgeting is a pacifying behavior. It's brought on by the limbic system in the brain that controls emotional responses and things of that nature. And another one is controlled gestures. High status people move decisively. When you're erratic and you're twitching and you're moving very fast, it causes unease in the room. And that is the opposite of what you want to be doing as a leader. Comfort with silence. Now imagine you're in a work situation, there's a dilemma on your hands, everyone's going crazy, but you know it's under control, you know how we're going to resolve this situation. Just envision how you would react in that situation. You're not going to rush, you're not going to panic, you're not going to feel the need to feel silence. You're going to stay calm, you're going to stay still, and you're going to move decisively. Cool, now we're going to talk about the hands. The hands are one of the most honest parts of the body, and it's the first place that stress shows up. When people feel defensive, uncertain, or lacking authority, the hands tend to disappear, whether that's behind your back, under the table. Keeping your hands visible shows transparency, confidence, and control. It actually goes back to our ancient ancestors. So instinctively within us, when we see someone approach, we want to see their hands. Back before we were domesticated, so fighting our saber-toothed tigers and shit, the first thing we'd look to is the hands. When we see a potential enemy approaching, is this a threat? Are they holding anything? Now we live wholesome lives with central heating, but the principle still applies. We want to see hands. Also, there's been studies done, so open palms is actually more comforting than closed palms. A rule of thumb in body language, everything falls into a category: open body language and closed body language. As far as the palms are concerned, showing your palms would be open and having them facing towards you is closed. It's just scientifically backed. Show your palms. And storytell. Now, take that with a pinch of salt. Great leaders storytell with their hands. It can help portray your image and it really helps to engage your audience. But the key here is not to do it too much and not to do it out of time when it's unnecessary. I used to work a sales job back in Norwich and I remember they brought in a new sales manager. Now, this is way before I was trained in anything non-verbal communication, but this guy, right off the bat, I could tell something was up, and he would roll around with his hands in his pockets 24/7. He would give speeches to the team with his hands in his pockets, and subconsciously, even then, I knew it diminished credibility for him, and as a result, he wasn't nearly as respected by us, by the team, than he should have been. Because he was good, he had good results-ish. Sweet. All right, cool. So next one is eye contact and gaze control. If you ever look at an interview with Tom Hardy, he's a really good example of this. Very long eye contact, but it's very relaxed. He's looking at you, not through you, just with the occasional head nod to let you know that he's keeping up. Very slow blink rate. Leaders don't stare, but they don't avoid eye contact either. Their gaze is very intentional, calm and it's unhurried. So that ties in with all of our points: direct but relaxed eye contact, slow gaze shifts. So when you're in a room, don't dart from person to person, just casually and slowly transition back and forth. And really important is a slow blink rate. When we feel anxious or nervous, distressed or under pressure, the limbic system in our brain increases our blink rate. So in contrast, a slow blink rate, it just indicates that you're calm, in control, collected, and most importantly, that you're demonstrating authority. Also, pro tip, if you're looking at someone, look into their left eye. For whatever reason, we find it slightly more unsettling when you look into the right eye. Looking between the eyes does work as well in terms of how they perceive it, but it's not good for you because you're looking in between the eyes. You can't actually focus on what they're giving off. What you can actually do on top of this, if someone says something in a conversation that you're not too happy about, you might have been offended, or you're not a fan of their opinion, you can actually switch that glance to their right eye, which subtly lets them know that you're not in favor of what's just been said, but you don't actually have to verbalize anything. So that's another little cool trick. Posture and vertical presence. Imagine you're about to do an interview. Somebody walks in, they're slouched over, heads hanging, shoulders are curled up to their chin, and they're clearly very rigid. Who are you going to give the job to? That guy or the other dude that has the exact same credentials but came in doing the opposite and everything that we're about to talk about. Posture is the first thing people register before you even say a word. What vertical presence really displays is actually how you see yourself in comparison to others. When a person is sat upright, shoulders relaxed, which also should be back by the way, and your head is vertical, this signals confidence and legitimacy. Also, balance is really important for executive presence and leaders. You never want to be seen leaning on anything. You always want to be symmetrical and box stance. So typically shoulder width apart, slightly wider works too. Having this vertical alignment shows that you're grounded, it displays presence, and it shows that you mean to be there. So we've covered upright posture, head level. So chin slightly raised is good, but you don't want to have it too far raised. Too much so can make it look like you're looking down on people and make people feel inferior, which is not what you want to do and not how you gain respect. And obviously, as mentioned, relaxed shoulders and push them back as well when possible. My good old friend, ventral orientation. If you've watched my previous videos, I love to mention this one in every video because it's so prominent and it applies in every day-to-day life. So the ventral line is everything down the center of the body, houses all of our vital organs, our delicate and sensitive areas like the neck, and instinctively we want to protect this area. So subconsciously we turn it away from threats and things we find uncomfortable, and we face it towards things and people that we don't have any issue with engaging with. So chest facing who you are addressing, feet oriented towards the group or the speaker. Now the feet are really interesting. So when people are trying to deceive you, they often only focus on regulating their face because it gets looked at the most, and they forget to look after their feet. So the feet really tell us a lot about something. When they don't want to be there, they angle them away, and when they're engaged, they angle them towards. So in your instance, when you're trying to demonstrate authority, you want to make sure that your feet are angled towards the person or persons. Full ventral orientation equals psychological presence. Imagine you've just come home from work, you've walked in the door, there's fluff all over the floor. You follow the fluff, you go into the living room, and your pillow's been torn apart by your dog. It's an absolute mess. You go into the kitchen, you find your dog, he's in the corner of the room, and you try and get his attention, you're calling his name to tell him off and, let him know what he's done, but he's not turning around because he already knows. This is an extreme example of ventral orientation, and yes, it does apply across species. Just wanted to use that one as we all love dogs. Boom. What leaders don't do? Well, first and foremost, no excessive nodding. In leadership and building authority, sometimes you have to choose between being liked and being respected. If you want to be liked, the occasional nod, the sort of gentle head nod in a conversation lets people know that you're engaged and you're listening and you're understanding. But in leadership and building authority, that's not always the best way to go. Excessive smiling. Authority doesn't need validation, and unfortunately, sometimes nice guys do finish last. Leaders who smile less are actually listened to more and they have greater influence on their team. If you're going to smile, which you should, by the way, I'm not saying don't smile, but you have to do it in moderation, and also the timing is super important. Only smile when it's relevant, and don't hold your smile for too long. People are really good at spotting a fake smile, and where people go wrong is they'll smile, but they'll hold it for too long. So what might start as a genuine, real smile eventually looks fake because you've held it for too long. Now, self-soothing gestures. Naturally, when we're feeling discomfort, uneasy, or nervous about something, we self-soothe, also known as pacifying behaviors. It's an internal response that no matter how good at body language moderation you are, you can't avoid. The higher the stress level, the more these emotions seep out. They have to go somewhere, and they will bleed out in these situations. But if you are aware of this, you have a better chance of controlling them in the situations that matter. So, quick note, pacifying and self-soothing gestures, they might look like a rub of the neck, scratch of the nose, a rubbing of the legs. So anything like that, just try and keep it under control. Rule of thumb, calm and neutral beats fake warmth, if that makes sense. How to apply it all without faking it. Now here's the thing, I'm gonna be real. This can't be acted, it has to be embodied. You need to know you're this shit before someone else is gonna think you're this shit. Slow everything down. Not only do you come across as more calm and in control, but it also gives you more time to think about each decision. Slow your movements, slow your speech, and slow your reactions. Reduce unnecessary movement. Stillness always comes first, and gesture with definitive purpose. And occupy space comfortably. Now, all this information means absolutely nothing if you don't remember it in the moment. So take one lesson, just one, and tomorrow or today, depending on what time it is, just keep it top of mind and try and look out for it and embody it in any situation you can. And only once that's ingrained, come back to this video, choose something else, go out, embody it, and one at a time, over time, you will build this into your day-to-day mechanics, into your muscle memory, and you will be seen as an authority. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.